What is up, everybody? Welcome to the YTC Championship Ranking. So, we're going to be taking all 11 past champions of the Youngstown Talk Club Fantasy League, and we're going to rank them 11 to 1. I know it's not a top 10 list, not as aesthetically pleasing, but we're going to rock it anyway because top 10 lists are arbitrary. 10's only an important number because we have 10 fingers if you think about it. So, let's be real. We're going to get right into it. And um, Hope everyone's day is going well. I haven't done any of these vlogs in a year or two, so excited to get back to it. Sorry, I'm not gonna edit this thing very much. There's a reason I got so burned out 10 years ago when I did this originally. You all know that. Okay, so championship power rankings. I came up with these rankings based on a few factors. One of which points, average points per game for that year. Some were just high level player performances. Some were how they were in the greater context of that year. Like if you're a 500 team, you're probably not going to rank very high compared to an undefeated one. So, without further ado, number 11, we got Rocco's 2023 team. This team, it just like I said, five, they're at 500 exactly. Again, they had some solid picks in there. They kept a large majority of their draft day roster. You go from like Jameer Gibbs and Justin Jefferson, all these guys mostly still very fantasy relevant. Um, Granted, not every pick was a huge smashing hit, but again, they were 500. They were not really a part of the greater context of that season. Only averaging about 113 points a game, which is solid, but more so just they didn't win their championship. They more so like had a few good weeks and just got the championship, if you know what I mean. Um, it's still a very admirable team. You gotta love that they drafted well and got themselves in the position to do this. But nonetheless, it's just a very uninspiring effort, and some of these teams are just leagues better. So that's why. No offense. Number 10, we have Jason's 2021 team. I'm sorry I'm formatting some of this. I already spent hours doing it. I didn't want to waste too much more. So this team was an interesting one to me. Again, barely above 500, averaging about 117. So like above average team for sure, and had some pretty solid performances. You look at Joe Mixon, for example, averaging 16 points a game, 16.7. Aaron Jones had a solid year. Damian Harris had his like year or two of fantasy relevancy. Had a great early draft to kind of set him up pretty well. When Aaron Jones was still like top of his powers. Um, Brandin Cooks in Houston had a great year. And then he made some acquisitions that were just able to kind of keep him intact, like Jarvis Landry. Um, but again, this team, just in the greater context of the league, he needed 65 moves to make it done. It just wasn't that. They weren't a very heavy favorite throughout most of the year. Again, just kind of eased their way into a championship. Again, very admirable effort, but just not a team that you're looking at and thinking, wow, that's one of the best of all time. Um, Granted, Joe Mixon in that year, very solid. Love what you saw there, but just left a little to be desired. Ninth, we have 2022's Tim team. And the last iteration of My Name is Slim Brady. Who knows? Maybe there's another Brady player that comes along one day and we could start using that name again, which would be pretty cool. Not gonna lie to you. Um, but yeah, this team was really, really solid all around. Like those first two were fairly easy for me to rank in the bottom two, but these next five or six are pretty kind of clumped together. Um, that like I caught probably could have put most of them in any order, but this is the one I came up with for this spot. Like you have Christian McCaffrey in one of his better San Francisco years. Josh Jacobs, this was a year I believe he led the league in rushing. So right there, those are your big reasons for um, where how they got to this spot to begin with. Yeah, it's an 8-6 team, so just barely above 500. The one almost 121 is a pretty solid average. Again, not one of the best of all time or anything, but like solid, gets you in the mix. But outside of those two running backs, CeeDee Lamb, there really isn't too much to write home about. They got hot at the right time, and that's all you can really say. So, um, had like the average amount of moves for a championship roster. So, all in all, pretty solid. Um, but yeah, largely headed by that those running backs. Coming at eight, we have 2024's Rocco team. I'm sorry for the abrasive graphics. I just needed something to get out there, and I assigned a random color to every team, and this was Rocco's color. So with this team, you have a little more just firepower compared to a few others, like Jonathan Taylor, Puka, in his rookie year. You love to see those guys. Kenneth Walker was putting up good numbers. Um, yeah, Jared Goff and that Lions offense were doing great. Um, Rico Dowdle as a pretty late round pick that was able to put up running back two numbers for you. You can't hate that. But again, this is one of the lowest averages. I think the lowest average of any team that's ever won a championship. And this weren't very impactful in the career context of that year. I know I've been saying that a lot, but you have to factor that in if you're going to rate champions. There's only so many ways to really do that. So that's one of the angles I'm taking. Only making 11 moves this year just shows like he had a great draft. I mean, that's of his first seven picks, only Christian Kirk was on the way out. I didn't look to see if they were traded or I don't always remember all the injuries. Chris Godwin this year, he drafted him, was one of the best receivers in the league. I think was a top five receiver, um, almost at least before getting hurt mid year. So you do factor that in the greater performance, even though he wasn't on the final roster. Shows he was able to overcome, had a decent bench, be able to pick up some of those guys, got him there. Jalen McMillan was, I think, a natural addition to it that made sense. So, yeah, all in all, pretty solid team. Nothing really to write home about. Those couple guys I mentioned earlier, I really hope paved the way. Number seven, one of the biggest outlier seasons total. I just love looking at this team because they made two roster moves all year, and you could clearly see who they were and how it happened. So we have Jay Cutler being cut for CJ Beathard. I think that was like a last week of the year thing. And Cam Meredith for Brandon Coleman. Okay, whatever. I barely remember Cam Meredith existed. But Donnie's team, who I can't say their name for just moral reasons, um, just really solid. You got rookie Christian McCaffrey, Gronk at the height of his powers. I think he made the man cover this following year. AJ Green going off in like later year Andy Dalton range. CJ Anderson, man, some of these names are such throwbacks. Uh, Julius Thomas, first year Miami, I think. Um, Big Ben during the height of the Killer Bees era, I think, is a pretty big factor in a lot of this. But Mark Ingram definitely holding down that New Orleans backfield was like huge at the time, and I think this was Jarvis Landry's first year in Cleveland. Or no, I think might have been his. No, it was his first year in Cleveland, if not maybe his second or his last year in Miami. I don't really remember. Um, Even though it says it over there, I don't know if all those are 100% accurate. I pulled the data from various sources. Some were in the spreadsheet, some weren't. So don't take him 100%. So either way, Jarvis Landry is pretty solid. Um, yeah, Dion Lewis had all those great years in New England. Or oh, he was in Tennessee by this point. Yeah, so he had the more backfield to himself. So like this was a decent team. Like they were in the upper like top 3 or 4 teams the whole year. Like and you just it comes down to that great draft he had. Like all those guys stay on his team all year, were fantasy relevant the entire time. Great foresight. You have to factor that in at least to some degree. So we'll put this team at number 7. Number 6, we got the most recent champion of Jason's 2025 championship, his second, the Wrath of Quan. 46 moves, so he need quite a bit of work, especially like he had that great first bit of the draft, and then yeah, his bench didn't really live up to what he imagined they would be. I imagine just what going through his head there. Um, pretty decent average of 121. He was this year. He was, I mean, always in the top 3 of the power rankings for more or less. Only had those couple losses, 11-3. So he was never once the highest scorer, but what he did have was just like pretty good consistency all year. He was the only team in the entire league able to beat the number 1 team for most of it, that being Jess. Finished 13-1 in the regular season, and then Jason beat Jess in the championship. But like, how did this team get there? I mean, great. What was it, 8th round pick in Javonte Williams? No one knew exactly how the Dallas backfield was going to plan out, so great pickup there. RJ Harvey has been great. Dak Prescott's like always going to put up good passing volume. Juwan Jennings solid. I think Trey McBride's what really set this team apart, because like you look at Marvin Harrison, really didn't do much. Emeka Ibuka, great first 5 or so weeks, didn't really do a lot after. Like Trey McBride, like no one was really putting up the numbers he did the entire year. Like Tucker Kraft kind of was, but it was really Trey McBride's tight end year for sure. Um, but like had like really solid depth guys the whole year, and was able to play around with it. So I think this is a good example of like a middle of the road championship roster. Brings us to number 5. We got our second ever champion. I say second ever championship because this was our first repeating champion, and my name is Slim Brady. So, what were the keys to this one? Like, again, one of the better averages you'll ever see, 129.85. I think that's like 3rd or 4th all time. This is again one of those teams that like truly deserved a championship. I mean, 11-2, hard to hate that. DeMarco Murray just was just on his generational run. He had great years in Dallas, but then the Tennessee years were pretty decent too. Jordan Howard was on another level during this time. Jordy Nelson, Tom Brady, still very much at the height of his powers. Julio, and same. Frank Gore was pretty good. This was second year Jameis. Like for a backup, you can't hate that. Doug Baldwin and Russell Wilson were always putting up those crazy numbers. Justin Tucker, yeah, before the downfall, pretty great too. Kept a good amount of his draft pieces, but definitely need a good bit of turnaround with some of them too. I think he made a few trades in there. I kind of distinctly remember Thomas Rawls trade. But despite some of the early round stuff, he was able to overcome them and get to a great record, great points per game. Hard to hate that. I think this ranks solidly 5th. You could argue maybe 4th or 3rd even, but I just like a couple of these other teams a little more. So 2020's Bobby team, dude looks like a Brady. I think our only non My Name is Slim Brady Brady team name that has won the championship, or maybe even ever existed. I don't know. Don't fact check me on that. But this was Bobby's very first year in the league, and to come out swinging the way he did, I think deserves a lot of praise. Under 125.95 points per game, 9-4 record, was always one of the better teams in the league this entire year. Josh Jacobs in his second year, great pickup. DeAndre Hopkins, I think this might have been the year he had that cool Hail Mary catch from Kyler. Maybe. No, I think I'm a year ahead there. Stephon Diggs, great though. Derrick Henry putting up crazy numbers. This was really the year he's like these couple years in like the late 2010s, early 2020s, where he really just like got another level from where he used to be. He had that great Hall of Fame quarterback room of Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Aaron Jones just kind of began his run of dominance. Stephon Diggs, like I said, a pretty solid bench too, more or less. But all in all, like a fairly good team. They won a lot of games. This was always like he was always outscoring most everyone he played, even if he didn't, wasn't quite undefeated or wasn't particularly close to that. For being first year and for some of these pieces that he did have and to propel himself to it, I think this is one of the better teams of all time. So that's why I have Bobby ranked 4 here. Number 3, we got Tim's 2019 team. Dude, where's my helmet? Which has a very just unfortunate and semi-nostalgic team name based on the Antonio Brown situation, who he drafted in the 3rd round. He didn't really do anything this year. It was the beginning of the end for him. Yeah, this would have been his first Raiders year, and then he's just fell off the face of the earth, really. But besides the Antonio Brown thing, let's like Christian McCaffrey putting up almost 26 points a game is crazy. Even though if this team was just barely 500 or like above 500, yeah, just barely above 500. This was really just a testament to how dominant some of these players really were, and just how kind of screwy I guess some of those losses were. Chris Carson, that was like his 1 or 2 good years. Julian Edelman during Brady's prime, great. Allen Robinson during those the Chicago years, like pretty solid. This is still one of those first couple Mahomes Kelsey years, so Kelsey was having a great time. Who else? Yeah, James White was doing solid. Austin Eckler, just a crazy amount of depth on this team overall. I mean, to have Debo and Robert Woods and so many of these guys, and have Kyler. Also, this 2019 team, Jameis Winston. I think this was the year he led the league in passing and 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. So that's why he probably had some of those losses too. He kind of went the way of Jameis. This roster did, just like he had those crazy highs and those crazy lows, and that's why James's average is the way it is, and why this team's record is the way it is. 139.72, again, one of the best average scores you're going to see every game, any team ever. So this one is definitely a top 3 team to me. You'll see why, like when you go back to those rankings I had just done, like there's just a different level of performance that some of these upper tier championship rosters have. So that's why they're ranked here number 3. So 2-1, you might remember a couple teams here if you're watching this and you're in the league. So we had 2 undefeated teams in league history. We had our first ever year in 2015. We had Tim's team, and then we had Johnny's 2018 team. So without further ado, Those two teams are going to be in our top two. Without further ado, number two is my name is Slim Brady 2015. I know, controversial. Um, but my thing, it came down to our old scoring system back in the day. So our first year was full point PPR. Just the totals in general were just on the high side. Um, Again, 13 and 0, like can't dispute that. Points per game 150, which again for the time was like still really great. Like no one came close to that. But it was easier to achieve that 150 score on this scoring system than our current half PPR one. It'll make more sense when we cover our number one team, who is Johnny. We'll get there in a minute. Um, let's break down 2015 Tim. I don't think he had done much, if any, fantasy prior to this. So to come out with this lineup, I think is really solid. And to only have three players that he drafted that ended up on the final roster shows just like how willing he was to trade, deal, pick up guys, and still maintain a crazy average. I think is extremely impressive. So Tom Brady, Devontae Freeman, he had that couple great years in Atlanta, just huge. This is second year Odell, and this is Jamal Charles too. I don't remember exactly what Tim's deal was with him, whether maybe Jamal got hurt or. But Jamal Charles was the Kansas City offense until Mahomes really came into the picture. Um, yeah, it was Jamal Charles, a little Alex Smith action, Dwayne Bowe. Yeah, but DeAndre Hopkins, this is like the height of his powers too. Jordan Reed, he had those couple great years. This is the big play Gary Barnidge year, big play Gare. Mike Evans, this is Jameis's rookie year, so he was airing it out to him. This is the birth of the Boz. Um, really, this is like when he became the consistent kicker. He still is 11 years later. Manny Sanders, I think this is Peyton Manning's last year or second to last year. Um, yeah, and he was putting up those great numbers with him. Doug Martin. I think I traded Doug Martin to him in exchange for Joseph Randall, who then got hurt or suspended something like 2 weeks, a week or two later. Um, that definitely didn't help anybody, but helped him for sure. Got rid at the right time. Alshon Jeffrey. Again, crazy loaded bench, great starting lineup. This team is just really it's gonna be hard to beat this one. But that's why Johnny's team did, because his team is just that good. Um, so again, I mentioned the old scoring system. You'll see that 149.23 number in the upper right. Again, this is our current scoring system. And that one we just looked at with Tim's was the old one, which hyperinflated the numbers. But this one is still the one we use today, and no one's ever come close to this number. So it just goes to show how good Johnny was, that he was able to be within a point of a hyperinflated system and, you know, beat the odds anyway. So this team is just really great in a lot of areas. So, first of all, he gets Pat Mahomes in the like 13th round, which is crazy. This is the first, I think this is Mahomes' first year starting. I think he won the MVP this year as well. This is that first huge Mahomes year. So right off the bat, he got that. Todd Gurley, I think this is third or fourth year, was still very much at the height of his powers, doing just crazy numbers. First year in LA. James White, doing great. T.Y. Hilton, I think this is Andrew Luck's last season, which was a great year for Ty. Juju, I think this was his first or second year. Put up huge numbers and was very much part of that killer Bees offense, despite not being a Bee himself. Travis Kelce, again with the Mahomes factor. Tyler Lockett was still like him and Russ had that long run together. Manny Sanders, like I mentioned earlier, was doing great. He didn't even need Cam Newton, but he just had him. Um, yeah, Riddick, Jason Myers, Buck Allen. Like this team was just at a different level. And it starts with those early few round draft picks. And then you get Mahomes in there and it's all over. Just that this team what this team was able to do with their draft assets, with everything that went along with it, to be the number one team, never lost a game, was always the dominant force all season long. I think that's why this team deserves number one. And it wasn't that close to me. Like Tim's 2015 team was definitely really good. And there's a reason I made so many vlogs 11 years ago about how dominant it was. However, it's just this Johnny team was something. Um, yeah, it's just hard to dispute. Him basically getting in early on the Kansas City Chiefs run, still having Todd Gurley, still having this like really good group of receivers. Um, just that's why that team name I can't say for again moral reasons is gonna be my number one team of all time. So again, there's the final rankings. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this on whatever day you're watching. Maybe I'll get back into videos again one day. Who knows? But this did take me all morning to put together. So hope you understand. Have a great day, whatever you're doing, and I'll see y'all soon. Hopefully, let's hang more. See ya.